Without further ado, my boy Pakman. What's going on, man?
Not much, brother. How are you?
I'm doing great. Man. It's been one heck of a busy day. Welcome again. I'm privileged. I'm actually honored that you got back to me and you accepted this. And this is a huge thing for me, as I'm sure it is for you. I'm not sure if you've managed to tell your story much about your life growing up and what you've dealt with, and then prior to streaming, and then where you're at today. And man, I've watched you for 3 years. Since I started streaming, you're one of my inspirations, and specifically for this podcast, you actually helped motivate me even more so to do it because of your tweet you had. I want to say around early October, maybe late September, I think it was, and you were talking about what you dealt with in 2015, and you mentioned the term silent angel, and I started using that because I think it's a great term to use for situations like this and suicide awareness, suicide attempts, ideations, and stuff like that. And so the floor is all yours, man. If you want to start off, the first topic is, the depression, something you've dealt with. Did you deal with that as a child? Tell us about a little bit about your childhood, growing into it, and becoming a content creator.
All right. Well, first of all, I appreciate your time for having me. Honestly, I'm honored to be here. It's a great place. I love talking to people about all this, whether it be content, whether it be just mental health. We used to have a mental health thing in Discord as well for people to just go and talk with others whenever they just need someone to speak to, because I wish I had that when I first went through it. I sadly had to remove it because we would have a bunch of trolls come in with over-the-top stories trying to get attention, and once they had attention, they would use that attention to screw those people over. It's the sad part of online. We have a lot of great people who used to help people out in there, but it is what it is. Me personally, I went through it back in I'd like to say like end of 2014, early 2015, where I just wasn't in the right space of mind for wanting to just do my thing, was confused about life, was confused about career. I wasn't studying. I did not graduate high school, and it just was a really rough time. That added in with some relationships at the time. I was in a rough spot. There came a time where I just felt like no one had my back. No one wanted to be around me. And that is not something that's a good feeling, to be honest.
Yeah.
And one day I was on the top of my building, and I was like, you know what? I think today's the day. I think I don't know if I can take it any longer.
Right.
And while sitting there just bawling my eyes out and stuff, trying to think about all the stuff that I could be screwing over, such as obviously everyone around me that does care about me, but they don't see the pain I was going through, right? And I got a notification for a video Tim had uploaded at the time. I sat there, I'm like, you know what, whatever, I'm gonna watch this. I hung out for a little bit, and that video made me laugh at a time where I probably hadn't laughed in a few weeks at that point.
Right.
And that was kind of my hint, like, you know what, don't take it too far, don't take it too serious. There's people who care about you. There's people who really love you. They might not understand it right now, but then again, you haven't opened up to them either. It's okay. Calm down. Things will get better. So I got off the roof. I went and talked to them, and life's been better ever since, slow and steady. After that, I just kind of focused on life. I ended up finding my wife, ended up hitting it off with her, got married. That pretty much sorted it out. Otherwise, I grew up with depression and anxiety pretty much most of my life.
Right.
I was diagnosed with it. They wanted to give me medicine. That is not something I really, condone. I don't like it. I don't think it's worth it. I feel like if you're mentally strong enough to do it yourself without the medication, it's a lot more of a lasting medication.
It's like just figuring out what works for you, what helps you. And last week we were on the DomCast with Primal Valor. He's a smaller creator. He's doing more offline right now because he's doing a lot more work, actual work, meaning he got a job because he got laid off from editing, whatever. And he was talking about that too, because he's got bipolar disease or disorder, and he was talking about how he wasn't diagnosed for that until he was like 24, 25, and beforehand they thought it was depression, which can be kind of, it's not, I wouldn't say a cover up, but it's easier to identify depression than it is this bipolar disorder. And so they were giving him medication for depression, and it was actually making it worse. And that's kind of what I was kind of telling them too, is like, I've seen some of my buddies in the military go through medication for different things, to include depression and stuff like that. And it just doesn't work. Depression medication doesn't work for everyone. It doesn't work for anybody that's using multiple different types of medication. It kind of counters it and it makes it worse. And so thanks for adding to that. That's a good point.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, the biggest thing that helped me with anxiety and even depression is one of the exercises I used to do. And I used to think it's so fucking stupid at the time, but genuinely it does help. It's something as simple as if you have a mirror at your house, go sit by that mirror, right?
Yeah.
Spend 2 to 3 minutes, stare at yourself in the mirror, and just give yourself some positive energy. Talk about, you're worth it. You're doing good. You're doing all right. Things will get even better. And it's just a matter of giving yourself that positivity that you need. And as stupid as it sounds, it did work. It did help me a lot, especially in really down moments when I was like, I just needed reassurance. Being able to reassure yourself of that is a very strong feeling.
Yes.
So that is something I always tell people to try. I'm like, listen, don't knock it till you try it. I know it sounds stupid, staring at yourself for 4 minutes straight, but try it and then you'll see.
Talking out loud, that's what I mean. Running is also really good, stress reliever, helps you get out of your head a little bit. But if you're not a runner, like I'm not much of a runner. I'm not a big time, like I can sprint. I played football, I wrestled, I could sprint. But telling me to go run 2 miles, which is what the Army tells me to do, like I hate it. But I've been doing a lot of it lately. And when you're feeling not very confident about your progress, or you're not feeling confident about what you're doing with your life, it's kind of like running. When you're running long distance and you have this goal to not stop and just run until whatever distance it is, your head starts, your mind starts to be like, hey, listen, you already had a good pace. You're halfway there. We can take a little break real quick. We can walk. Your mind's telling you to quit and give up at the moment. And what I started doing was just, and I don't even care that people are around. I'm like, fuck you. I'm like, yeah, I'm not fucking stopping, and like saying that out loud actually helped me motivate myself and get those thoughts out of my head. Now, can you use that for mental health? When you start having those deep, dark thoughts? Yeah, you definitely can. Now, whether you're around people or not, I mean, that's up to you. But using the mirror is a good example, because you see that all the time with movies, commercials, or even sometimes some people do skits where they're in the mirror and they're just sitting there talking to themselves, and then they do a really good edit to make it look like it's talking back to them, right? So they do a really good job. It's the same concept. You're just doing it in real life, and it's not for show. It's not for content purposes. You're doing it for yourself, and if you're able to do that, and you're going to have a lot more stronger will to overcome those thoughts and become more positive and succeed at life and other things that you were looking to do. The question I have for you is, growing up in high school, did you ever deal with bullying or negative friends or students at school, and what led to you not graduating, if you don't mind me asking?
Interesting story. I was bullied quite a bit. Then it kind of got into like the popular phase for a little bit, because I got into sports. I got into basketball, baseball, football, and I was decent in all of them. So it kind of became a lot less. I was never really known as a fighting type. I had anger issues, but I tried my best to control them, until one day this dude came up to me and he said some stuff about my mom. That is not something I take lightly, especially with anger issues. I don't care if it was a joke, whatever. Mm-hmm. Our school had 3 floors, and there was a main stairwell that used to go all the way down, and it would land right in front of the principal's office. I punched him up top at the 3rd floor, and I kept beating him until we were at the front door of the principal's office.
Oh, wow.
At the bottom of the 1st floor.
Yeah.
And by that time, he was pretty much done completely. Principal comes out, tells me, end it, stop it, end it. I'm like, okay. So I knocked out his tooth. I knocked him out on the spot.
Yeah.
And everyone saw a different side of who I was, because that was not something I ever showed.
Right.
Cops were called. A lot of things went wrong. I kind of owe the principal my life, because at the end of the day, she could have expelled me on the spot for how bad it was. But she gave me 2 options: either get expelled, or the second option was join the school's boxing team, go to anger management classes, and be suspended for a month.
You chose boxing, right?
I chose option B, which was all 3 of those instead of expulsion.
Yeah.
So I did that. Turned out I was pretty good at fighting. Good way to elevate that anger. Mm-hmm. And that anger management really helped out quite a bit. It made me control who I am, like kind of understand that it's not the way I want to live life. Mm-hmm. And that did help me out quite a bit. And, that suspension for a month kind of did rock some stuff. After that, I was so behind, I just couldn't continue. And then we started moving around, and I just couldn't get my groove anymore.
Right.
We moved to Kuwait, we moved to Saudi Arabia, we moved back to Pakistan for a little bit. I just couldn't get it going. So I never ended up graduating.
So a lot of this was over in Pakistan and in Kuwait and Saudi Arabia? Or has this been
the fight, it was in Canada.
In Canada, okay.
We started moving around to we moved to Kuwait after that because around that time, the whole cops issue and me being young, child services got involved.
Oh, okay.
That was going to be a little bit iffy.
Yeah.
So my dad ended up having a job offer from Kuwait, so we ended up just leaving the country and moving.
Wow.
And after that, I just couldn't get my hold on things. But fast forward to the future, when I met my wife, it was different because never cared to study, never wanted to study. But when I got with her, it was just I wanted to be a better person for her.
Right.
So I came back to Canada and I ended up doing my business administration diploma as a student. And ended up graduating my college without a high school diploma, but with a college diploma in honors.
There you go. Hey, congrats, man. That's awesome. See, I mean, that's the thing is it's these stories are awesome because, there's a lot of people that relate to their upbringing and some of the issues they had growing up with, whether it's internally, externally, with their family, with their friends, or just themselves. And, everyone has that thought of, I'm not doing anything with my life. No one's going to care. No one, even bothers to check up on me, or I'm just being bullied. And being able to come through like that, despite all the trials and tribulations you went through, you still came back and got a diploma. And that's actually honorable. That's awesome. Being able to get your mind right. A lot of times bullies tend to focus on the quiet ones. They tend to bully the quiet ones because they see something in them that they don't have, whether it's a better family upbringing or whether it's they got a nice pair of shoes on or whatever may be the case. They idolize it, they admire it, and so they don't have that upbringing, they don't have whatever it is, and so they try to be they try to appear to be bigger and meaner and show their willpower that way. And it's the moment you step up and you push back, that's when they stop. They pushed you over the edge because of something they said that was stupid, and they regret it, I'm sure. And so for you to overcome that incident and what led you to where you're at today is actually phenomenal. It's awesome. And I tip my hat off to you for that. And the other thing too is when you're standing on, you said you're on top of the roof, right? Getting ready to jump in 2014, 2015. So, I mean, I applaud you too, to be able to see that moment that, this ain't it. You know that people care about you, and you kind of fought that back, that mindset of no one's going to miss me. And, I'm better off. They're better off without me. And to that point where you're getting ready to just take that first step, and instead you took that step back and said, listen, I got people that care. I understand that, things aren't right, but I need to go and be that bigger person and open that conversation. You did. And you're here today for it to be able to have this story be put out there. That's awesome of you too. How did content creating become a thing for you? When did you start, and what inspired you to start that?
I used to play Modern Warfare 2, the original, or actually COD 4 is when I started. But I kind of fell in love with it when Modern Warfare 2 came out. I think it was 2009-ish. And I used to get into games with people like White Boy 7th Street and X-Jaws at the time. Those were the pioneers of COD content.
Yeah.
And I was like, you know what? These guys are doing it. I want to do it too. And that little me with a squeaker voice started recording voiceovers and videos on my phone.
Nice.
Potato quality on a Motorola. It was horrible. And I started putting that out, and I started enjoying it. Went from that to the Dazzle, which was the one with the red, white, and those cables.
Yeah.
It started something in me that I wanted to be a content creator. And you can probably still find videos of me just as a squeaker, hey guys, today I'm back at you. It's horrible. It's so bad. And I chased that for a while. In 2012, 2013, I actually joined a pretty big team for sniping at the time, and that's what I was doing. And then my channel at the time, I don't like talking about it, but I ended up hitting 50,000 subscribers, which at that time was massive. It was
right.
2011, I'd like to say, 2012. The night I went to sleep after celebrating everything with my family, woke up the next morning and my channel was gone.
Oh, what?
Someone hacked my channel and deleted it from my own channel settings. So when I contacted YouTube, they're like, "Oh, we can't do anything because it says you deleted it yourself."
No way.
So a great option.
And this is before all the verification, the 2FA and all that stuff too.
I
Yeah.
don't remember if that was around at the time.
Right.
Like I had whatever was available. Somehow they got into my account overnight and deleted it from my own settings. And I just kind of got upset with that, and I just disappeared from the community for a few years.
Oh, wow. Wow.
Fast forward to 2017, I was back in Canada studying. I needed a place to kind of just offset my mind from the study stress.
Mhm.
So I started gaming again. I started catching up with some of the old buddies, and I started streaming here and there for some of my boys who just wanted to watch me play.
Yeah.
So I just started up a stream on Twitch. Like, here, go watch. Made me really enjoy it. The aspect of being able to talk to people, just chill out, do my thing, and have fun. So when 2019 came around and COVID was there, I'm like, you know what? It's time to try. I'm going to be stuck at home for 8 hours. I'm laid off from my job. I don't know what to do. Wifey was like, why don't you try streaming? I'm like, sure.
Right.
I built my PC literally that same day we had that conversation. I went out, bought the parts, built a PC, and very next day I started streaming.
Big wins for the wife, man. That's a strong, powerful, supportive wife right there. Let's go.
She was like, you're going to be, stuck at home 8, 9, 10 hours, nothing to do. Might as well just be gaming.
Yeah.
Right? Just do something you enjoy so you don't get like annoyed with stuff. I'm like, great. So next day I started streaming. Was a little bit iffy to begin with, but I had a great start just due to Huskers. I was always in this community. He found out that I started streaming. So literally, I think like 2 months into me streaming every single day because COVID.
Right.
I'm going to be on gaming. Might as well stream it. And he ended up rating me with like 7,000 viewers.
Oh my goodness.
That changed everything for a little bit. I'm like, oh my God.
Yeah.
I don't know, how do I handle this?
That's insane.
I broke down. I'm like, God damn it.
Yeah.
Oscar, let me do this. And that's kind of where my love for everything started even more, where I'm like, I love doing this. I want to do this. I enjoy interacting with people from different backgrounds, different religions, different places in the world. And I get to just have fun with them all.
Right.
This is what I want to do. And I'm going to give it a shot one more time, like back in the day. My dad didn't really care. He's like, whatever, you do what you want. It is what it is. I get it.
Right.
My mom, moreover, was just, the mommy instincts.
Right.
Where it's like, listen, if you're under our roof, I need you to go get a job, right? Stop wasting your life, this, that. Brown parents, it's expected. I was like...
Well, they're also from Pakistan, right? So, like, the culture there is also different.
It's the stigma of not being able to make money online is different.
Right.
Completely.
I mean, it still kind of hits over here too, just it's not as strict.
It's a lot stricter back home.
Right.
It's like typical business, medical, or farmer.
Right.
You do those three things. Streaming was nowhere on that list.
Right.
But I didn't hate them for it. I wasn't mad. I left my house 2 days later.
Yeah.
I'm like, listen, I'm not getting a job. I don't know what you expect me to do. I'm going to continue streaming. So I packed my bags. I moved to Calgary across the country. Had to leave wifey there while I set up here and figured out life.
Right.
And I moved across. Didn't hate them for it. My whole thing was like, you know what? They grew up in a different era. I'll make it work out, and then I'll make them understand like this is what I was doing.
And what do they feel about it now?
I take it as a sign from God too, because when I moved, literally that night, I ended up getting a call for an interview.
Nice.
I landed here, and the guy's like, "Oh, would you mind relocating?" I'm like, "Sure, but where? Because I just moved." He's like, "Where'd you just move?" I'm like, "Calgary." He's like, "There's no way." The guy called me for a job in Calgary to relocate from Milton.
Oh wow.
From Ontario. I'm like, I just landed today, and he just found my resume on Indeed. It wasn't even something I applied for.
Oh wow.
And that was like a sign. So he's like, listen, I know we're supposed to wait 2 weeks after travel to meet someone, but I don't care. Come in tomorrow.
Right.
So I went the next day, hired me on the spot, and I was working as a car salesman here. From November 2020 till April 2021, those 6 months were probably the roughest 6 months of my life because one, I'm away from my wife. My setup and my bedroom was smaller than the studio I'm in right now.
Right.
Everything was cramped into that one tiny room. I was working 6 days a week, 10-hour shifts. 60 hours. I was editing my own videos. I was still streaming every single day, minimum 3 hours. And I was also going to college part-time. I started taking cybersecurity classes. And for 6 months straight, I was running on about 3 hours max a night of sleep.
Ouch.
6 months. Not fun.
No.
There came times where I wanted to give up, but I'd say about 3 months into it, I was about to quit, and I was like, you know what? I've been streaming at this point for almost, 100 and something days. I'm tired. It is what it is. I'm done. And then right before I went to sleep, I'm like, you know what? I have a video ready. It's edited. Might as well post it.
Yeah.
So I put that post up, went to sleep. Overnight, my phone's just going ding, 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 ding. What's going on? So I woke up and I have literally I opened TikTok and it just says 10K plus.
Oof.
And I'm like, what? And the video overnight in about 8 hours had 1 million views.
Holy crap.
I went from 1,000 followers up to 50,000 overnight.
That's insane.
Oh my God, what is going on? And that was my hint to keep going.
What was that video?
It was a video about haters. There was a lot of hate coming through just due to people from oh, you got your viewership. I was averaging 10 viewers.
Yeah.
You got handed to you. We deserve this, blah, blah, blah. You got it handed to you by Huskers. This.
Oh my God.
Oh. So I made a response to it. It's like a talking head video. I'm like, listen, I don't give a fuck if I'm at 3 viewers or 300. I love what I do. I'm going to keep doing it.
Yeah.
Right? And that video ended up blowing up and I jumped in viewership from 10, 12 to 30, 40, 50 after.
Right.
And just after that, everything started getting better. April came around and I felt like, okay, you know what? Wifey's here now. She got a job at the hospital.
Nice.
She has a stable income. I got laid off at work again. So I was like, you know what? I'm averaging 500-600 subs a month. Covers my basic bills.
Right.
Let's try going full time. Let's test it out. And wifey supported me. She's like, listen, I have a stable job. It's fine. Try it. And it was supposed to be a test for 1 month. And now, alhamdulillah, I mean, we're coming up on 3 years of being full time.
Mm-hmm.
That test led into just staying full time the whole way through.
Right.
And that's kind of how I ended up here now.
Nice. Dang, man, that's a lot. That's a lot. And a lot of good and a lot of bad things, right? But it's awesome that things worked out for you. And speaking of every day, you're almost at the 1350 mark of days straight streaming, right?
Yeah.
Not straight streaming, but going live every day.
Yeah. 1,319 today, I believe.
There you go. Dang. I can't even imagine that. My wife would have a heart attack if earlier today, she's like, oh, well, you love your second wife, which is gaming. I'm like, whatever. That's
genuinely insane because considering we're in December right now.
Yeah.
So we have January, February, March. So about 4 months till I hit 4 years in a row. And I don't know, I'm just confused because I have a big move coming up soon too.
Right.
I'm taking a leap of faith. And I'm confused whether I want to end the streak just now. I did think about ending it on Christmas. Just because it lines up with the lead number 1337.
Oh, wow.
So day 1337 would line up with Christmas. I'm like, that's kind of a W opportunity.
Yeah.
There's bonuses, there's positives and negatives to having a streak like this. The positives are the loyals that enjoy, there's all that stuff. Obviously, continuing a record puts a respect on your name as well.
Mm-hmm.
There's negatives to it, which I feel like are the reason why my viewership has gone down significantly. Is one, obviously, I've been slacking on content because the affordability has not been there to afford a nice editor.
Right.
To keep the content quality as I had it for the last 2-3 years.
Right, because you recently just kind of moved over to Kick, right? And so that kind of plays a part too.
So I literally dropped in viewership because people stopped watching Warzone 2 at the time.
Right, that too, yeah.
So I went down from 250, 300 down to 120.
Mm-hmm.
And then I decided, you know what? I was getting screwed by Twitch heavy. I don't know if people know this, but there was a point, even right now, till this day, I get about 26% of every sub on Twitch.
Oof. And that's the thing that I know, Big E and all them have been really pushing the fact that Twitch is not content creator friendly when it comes to that for payouts and stuff. And you're a Twitch partner too, so there's the whole smoke screen that they're putting out that, you know, some contracts have 70% and this and that and blah, blah, blah.
The only 70% I have is on tier 3s, and even that is not a 70% because for every tier 3 I only get paid $6.
Yeah, but at the same time, like how often do you get tier 3s?
I had a loyal community.
Yeah, I know I've dropped some tier 3s on you, and but like you don't see it too often though, but you do get them.
Exactly. No, exactly. So, and as far as tier 1s go, you know, $5 sub, 50% split, $2.50
right.
cents. All right. Some fees, sure, okay, take off another 30 cents or whatever per sub.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm just gonna make the switch.
Yeah.
Making the switch was good because my loyals did switch over, but I lost another half of my viewership. So I jumped down from 120-ish down to 50, 60.
Yeah.
And then continued that with Warzone, the viewership on the decline across both platforms. That 50, 60 dropped again to 40-ish. And then I started saying, you know what? I'm tired of playing this game. I want to do other stuff. So I started going variety. So I started doing Counter-Strike. I started doing Fortnite, this, that. And I lost even more viewership because people that expected me to be on COD 24/7 are like, oh, I'd rather watch someone else who's going to be on COD all day long.
Right. So and that's the unfortunate thing. And like the idea of streaming and building a community is building a community that want to watch you for what you do, not for the game that you're playing. And like, it's nice to know that you got you know, your core community as from COD, but then you see that with a bunch of other creators, and that really that is detrimental to your mental health as well, because you start seeing that and you're like, well, did I really have a community? And, you know, I say that not in a negative way. It's just the reality of what am I doing wrong? Just because I'm not playing a game doesn't mean that I'm not me still.
I literally had that conversation with my community. I'm like, it's insane how many people we've lost that we genuinely thought were like family.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's insane that I genuinely thought that we built something different here, and we built a genuine core community that wanted to be there just to mess around, have fun, make jokes all the time, and not the game that I was on.
Right.
As things started changing, all those people disappeared. Now I'm at, you know, I average anywhere from 10 to 30, depending on time of day, depending on how things are going. But I have those core supporters that are still there, which is the reason I can still stay full time.
Right.
Otherwise, without those guys, I would not be where I'm at. I tell them every day I'm fucking thankful. But yeah, we did lose an insane amount of people.
Because how many followers did you have on Twitch?
70,000.
70,000. And you said you were averaging about 200, 400 viewers a stream, or more.
When I switched over, I was at like about 100.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, but then we also got to remember to Kick. I don't know what it is, but I know they, you know, just the COD community on Kick has been lowered across the board, period. Except for some of the bigger streamers that were already racking in 7,000, 8,000 viewers from other platforms that came in. And I think that's where, and like, there's a lot of people that put out there that it's cool that Kick's doing that and bringing some of these bigger streamers over. But the downside is that those people that come over, the viewerships that come over is strictly for them. And it's true. I mean,
that's happened to me a little bit. I agree with it because, like, I get it. But the thing is, we're at a point now where I feel like Kick's main focus needs to be, and I love Kick, don't get me wrong, I love it here.
Yeah.
My only thing would be, like, instead of getting even more bigger streamers, is we try to actually focus on growing our viewership base now.
Yep.
Right? Because as great as having the big streamers is, it's not really bringing over people as you normally would expect.
Right.
Right. For me personally, I can tell you from experience, with some of the big streamers that came over, my viewership has dropped significantly each time someone who came over, because those dudes were loyal to them, switched to Kick for me, and now that they're on Kick, they'd rather be watching them at the time, right? And
then it sucks because it forces everyone, or it could force everyone, or those people that are affected by that, to start changing up their stream schedule, which then now they're not consistent until they start doing that new schedule more often. And but then again, like, we can't play that game of we're going to switch our schedules because of somebody else, because then you're just going to keep doing it every time somebody else comes in that happens to have the same schedule, and it's like, you know, it's frustrating.
It's cool that you bring it up, because that's literally been my life over the last 4 months.
Yeah,
consistently trying out a different timing to see what works best. Recently, for me, it's best has been for my community, because I have a lot of people that are from Europe
or overseas.
Yeah. So it's been like late nights / early mornings over there.
Mm-hmm.
that's when I have like decent. We'll see how the new game does. People did enjoy me on Counter-Strike, but now that I'm grinding out COD again, we'll see if that helps or not.
Yeah. So far, I mean, the game, the new COD has been, at least the Warzone's been a big positive for a lot of people. So I think that's going to help a lot. And maybe the your core community that didn't come over or didn't support you playing other games, maybe they might come back. And now it's one of those things where do you hold that against them, or do you just kind of welcome them back in? And it's like, well, they were big and they were a big part of your community beforehand, and you enjoyed their time, and it's unfortunate that's the reason why they're back. But they're back. That's the positive thing is that they're back. To be honest, man, suicide has been a huge thing in my life, just because I've had more of my military friends die by suicide than I have combat. And if those numbers say something, I'm pretty sure the Canadian Army, the UK Army, Australian Army, Pakistani Army, a lot of them probably have the same stats, and it's a huge thing. Even the kids are seeing it now. The suicide rate for kids are coming up, and it's frustrating. So you're hearing your story about being bullied, and then growing through it, and surviving, and finding ways to stay positive is inspirational for everyone. With that being said, you talk about your wife and stuff, and how much she supported you, and she's willing to walk to the edge with you and pull you back and say, hey, listen, let's keep going. Let's do something else. Go ahead and let's support you. How do you manage the time with her? And then in real life, time to yourself for your mental health?
That's a good question. I mean, that's kind of the spot that I'm kind of iffy in at the moment myself, is making that time to relax. I haven't had that. And that was one of the reasons that I was thinking of ending the streak on Christmas Day. Is like the positive and negatives I was talking about. One of the negatives of being live every day is, one, I'm not mentally at a spot right now where I can be as creative as I used to be, because I'm semi-burnt out.
Right.
I love what I do, which is the reason I still do it. It makes me happy, making people smile every day. But I'm at a point where, after streaming and then trying to figure out everything in life, I don't have it in my mental state to sit there and be creative about, okay, how do I make the best video possible?
Right.
And which has also probably affected my numbers, is the fact that I stream anywhere from 3 to 8 hours every single day. When do I sit down and think about how to make a creative video?
Right. Okay. And so how to edit and stuff yourself. You started doing that yourself before you hired some editors before in the past?
I did it myself for the first year. When I went full-time, I hired an editor. Mm-hmm. And then recently I've been at a point where obviously sub counts down to the point where it covers all my bills and stuff.
Right.
So I'm blessed in that sense. But I can't afford to do those extra expenses such as editors, thumbnail designers. And that has been a big reason to the last 6 months of me just not putting out as much content, is because I don't feel comfortable with my editing quality.
Right.
It's pretty bad compared to the quality I put out for the last 2 years straight. Yeah. To where I don't want to post it because I feel like it's a shitty edited video. And it makes me just not want to post.
Well, you have that standard, yeah. And the thing about it is, editors, when you have a good editor, it's expensive, because they take a lot of time to do. I mean, I'm just finding out with just doing the podcast editing. I got 2 hours, 3 hours of content that I got to go through, and it takes me 8 to 9 hours just to 8, 9, 10 hours just to get it down, cut all the irrelevant parts of the podcast. And sometimes we get off topic about things, have to cut that out, and then try to find ways to tie it in. And yeah, editing takes up a lot of time, and if you can find a good editor that can have that time, you're going to pay a lot of money. There's a lot of mental health issues that are going on, and that's why I started this podcast. And it's not just with the content creating world; it's outside of it too. And I wanted to make a platform for people to come on here and be able to talk, whether it's in chat or whether it's guests like you, and kind of speak your story, because a lot of people need to see that we're, as content creators, we're still human. We still deal with the same stuff outside of what we're doing. We put a smile on the face just like everyone else does.
No, for sure. People take things as easy as a content creator. It's like, oh, you play video games for a living. It's like, no, there's a lot more that goes into it behind the scenes that you just don't see. Even when we're playing video games, my mind is on 10 different things at the same time. It's like, oh, am I getting enough content out of this? And then it's like, oh shit, I have to actually look through my entire thing, see if I actually got something after stream. Oh, I didn't? Damn, okay, I got to sit down and do it again. Then finding an editor, finding everything else. It's a full-time job at the end of the day. They might see us streaming for 8 hours. They don't see the 8-10 hours behind the scenes that you're putting in, and trying to figure out, okay, how is life? How do I sort my own self plus the content plus the stream plus family time? It's a lot that goes into that people just don't kind of pay attention to. They just think he got lucky.
Yeah. And that's the thing is like, there's a lot of people out there, even to this day, it's still the same thing. People are always like pick me's, and it's like, well, you weren't picked. I thought I turned that off. It's like you didn't get picked because that person that rated you, Huskers, didn't see something in them that he saw in you, and it's okay. That's okay. Just take it as, like you said, Huskers isn't being a yes man. He's being a no man to that person. And so why don't you go back and figure out what you need to be seen? And that's what people forget too. There's a lot of content creators nowadays. There's a lot of content. There weren't as many content creators there are today as they were before COVID happened.
It's insane. It's a cutthroat industry. There's things we all have to improve on. I mean, there's a lot of ups and downs that you have to take into account. It's just being there, being mentally strong to keep going in times where you think things are not going your way. Just keep it going, man. Keeping hope. I think that's a big word, is hope at the end of the day. Right. You need hope in your life. Without hope, you have nothing.
For me, like I'm in a good place right now where I'm settled in, because we just moved to Virginia last year, and with travel from work and stuff like that, I've done more travel this year than I've done in the last 5 years, and I think we're settled now, and my mental health is phenomenal, because I think a lot of it is a lot of it's the time that I was able to take from the travel that I had to do to take a deep breath and kind of revitalize what I was doing beforehand, and remembering why I started this whole thing. And with that, what I was gonna say is, like, you're traveling, you're making this move to Dubai. If you decide not to cancel your streak, did you consider, or did you look at, the flight? The flight's going to probably, is going to be the biggest factor flying to Dubai from here.
Yeah. The way it basically works is I'll have to stream
during your layovers.
During Boston layover. So I specifically selected a flight that has like a 4.5-5 hour layover.
Oh, nice.
So I have to just go in a lounge and just hang out there and just stream from there.
Yeah. Okay. That makes sense. Yeah. Cause I remember you were, I think you were doing a lot of IRL for a little bit, because I think you're traveling.
I love doing the IRLs. They just don't really perform for the basic ones. So the goal is, once I'm actually in Dubai, I've made some friendships now there should be something cool going on once a week, and try to get into the IRL section like that, where we do one stream a week, where it's just we go do all the cool shit IRL.
Yeah, because Dubai is a nice place to be.
There's so much going on at all times, man.
Have you tried looking into probably doing like hotel reviews, or some of the Instagram people that do, like, because I know they do a lot of that for free because of their following?
I would love to, but at the moment, like, all that stuff is not possible just due to my following all being Canadian and US.
Oh yeah.
And they're like people that are more local, like their general audience.
Okay.
So that's not really something, but I have been trying to connect with anyone and everyone online through like LinkedIn for like, professional like gamers and people in the gaming and esports industry.
Right.
If I can somehow get into that side of things.
So I know you mentioned earlier that you've just got to figure out what you do for your mental health to help kind of like bring you back down and grounded. Now, I know your wife's a big part of that. Is there anything else that you do specifically that helps fit your regiment to help you kind of calm down and get grounded, just to kind of give some advice for anybody that's listening?
Biggest thing that helps me personally is I like going on a drive.
Oh, so this 10-hour or this 30-hour drive is going to help.
Hopefully. I like just like putting my windows down. I don't care if it's hot or cold.
Yeah.
I'll put my windows down a little bit and just take that fresh air in for a little bit and just breathe.
Yeah.
Deep breaths, take the drive. Try to just not think about anything except for just you, the road, the car, that's it. And just focus on that. Big thing I focus on is the air. Like just breathing, clear air. And I try to get my mind in a spot where it's like clear air, clear thoughts, clear air, clear thoughts.
Right.
That's it. Right. It's like you're breathing it in and you're breathing out all the bad thoughts. And that's just kind of how I take it.
Do you struggle with identifying what you can and can't control when you have stressors?
Yes, that is something I'm really bad with. I actually have a picture my dad sent me. I'd have to find it, but it's like along lines of, do you have a problem? Yes or no. If you go down the yes part, is there something you can do about it? Yes or no.
Right.
Same thing. If it's no, don't worry about it. If it's yes, don't worry about it. See, at the end of the day, it's like no matter what, like if you can't do anything about it, then why are you worrying?
Right.
What is worrying going to help you if you can't even do anything about it? And if you can do something about it, I mean, also, why are you worrying?
Right.
You have it. You know how to sort it. Simple as that.
Yep. Yeah. That's one of the biggest messages we have, especially when it comes to mental health and suicide awareness is there, I mean, if you feel like no one cares about you, what can you do to control that? Well, who are the important people in your life that you want to care about you?
For
you know, and then you prioritize it that way, you know, and then you call them and say, hey, this is what's going on. You know, the biggest part about us as humans is we have way too much pride. We have way too much ego to put down and just pick up the phone and call somebody and say, listen, whatever it is. Right. And then just start that conversation, because when the conversation never starts, that's when you start talking to walls or yourself. And then you start getting deeper into those thoughts, and it leads to worse things. And if your biggest problem is that you feel like no one cares about you, yeah, I think you start there with your immediate family members or your best friend, or who you thought was your best friend. Just call them and say, listen, I know we haven't been this and that, but I think that's what's going to help out a lot with people's mindsets of failure or no one cares and stuff like that.
You'll never know until you talk, you know. You'll never know until you yourself sometimes have to be the one reaching out, you know.
Yeah.
That's one of the things, I guess, is the big issues is as a man, you just kind of hold it in. Right?
Yeah.
Like, no one gives a shit about me.
Yeah.
They expect me to be a man, be quiet, just handle it.
Yep.
You know, and so we don't really talk about it to anyone else. We're just like, you know what, it'll be fine. It'll be fine. And then it gets too much at one point, and you're like, shit.
Yep.
Now what?
Next thing you know, there's a hole in the wall.
Exactly. You gotta be willing to put that ego aside once in a while and just be like, hey, I need help.
Yeah.
It's that simple. It's 3 words. It's just literally, I need help. That's it.
I'm glad you brought that up, because that seems to be a repeating topic whenever I have these. Now, granted, I've had mostly men be on the podcast. It just happens to be how the scheduling worked out. And we did have Lauren Shea on here a couple of weeks ago, and she even brought it up, and I was like, you know, you're right. You know, it's us men that grew up in the 80s, 90s. That's how we were raised, you know, and then also everyone's culture is different too. You know, Middle Eastern cultures, if not more stricter than it is in the Western culture, but the Western culture still has that big macho man, Randy Savage type of mentality of, exactly. You know, you're not hurt. It's just a little pain, rub some dirt on it and move along, keep it going, you know, and don't let people see you cry because it's weakness. And it's like, well, it is if you're always crying, right? But if you're crying for a reason, there's justification. Why not? Just let it out. It's okay. For sure. Do you have anything else, any wise words you want to put out to everyone? I know your time's limited. I know you got things you got to get going to. I know your time is very important, and I value it, and I appreciate everything you've done and told us about. And it's an amazing story, man. I'm glad I got to know you a little bit more. I'm glad you were able to jump on here real quick. And I know you've got things going on, so I don't want to keep you too much. If you have more we want to talk about, there's something I didn't hit on the topics you want to talk about, you're more than welcome to open up.
We covered almost anything. At the end of the day, this goes for you. This goes for anyone. My DMs are always open. If someone just needs someone to talk to, I'm always available. I try my best to check on my DMs across platforms. You know, we're all going through something, and sometimes you might not feel like you have someone you can talk to. My DMs are open for you. Come through. Other than that, I think we've covered basically everything, and I appreciate your time for having me. You're a great freaking dude. I love having you as a part of our community, and honestly, I'm glad I could take my time out and do this.